Lawyers, take it away.
Well, good morning and welcome. This is Mike Harris on Veterans Today Radio, also simulcasting on Revolution Radio. Hopefully we've got this hooked up right. Hopefully things are working properly for us, and we will see here momentarily. We've, as you know, yesterday we were plagued with software issues and other problems, but if we've done it right, everybody should be hearing us on multiple locations right now. And as promised, our guest today is Mr. Keshe. Mr. Keshe, are you there?
Yes, if I don't get disconnected, yes.
Well, hopefully you won't be disconnected. We had enough of that going on yesterday to last me the rest of the year. So anyway, welcome to the show. How have you been?
Thank you very much. Still alive and kicking, as we say. We are still going ahead and trying to do some useful work. And we'll see where we're going to go.
Okay, well, good. Now, I understand that we've got a little special program set up for the first half hour or so today, first hour maybe. You've got a kids program going, and wanted to sort of have you participate with what are you teaching the young folks?
What we have decided is that it's no good to wait and try to teach them the new science when they already got their degrees or they are in the high school. So what we decided a few months ago is that we start teaching the basic language of the new plasma technology to children. And
Okay.
you see, by teaching the children, the adults are learning more than the children do. So we are entering the back door to teach the adults and the children at the same time.
Okay. So you have a program going today. So we're going to be allowed to listen in and eavesdrop on your class?
It's not a class, it's an open session. It's run by a gentleman called Kevin Davina from Austria.
Okay.
So we expect him to be online. If he is, he's usually around. And he sets the scene, what he thinks children need to know or want to know. So I don't know if he's available. Rick Crammond can see him in the background.
Okay, Rick, do you have him in the background? Well, if possible, yes. Let's go ahead and try. And if we can't, we'll just make stuff up and wing it. Okay. No, I can't unless I've got a Skype ID for him. I have to send him a request, so it's a little late in the game for that since we're already broadcasting.
Maybe we can carry on with he's there. He's in the background.
Okay, well, guys, it's no big deal. We're adept.
He's there. We can see him.
So we're.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Well, hi, Kevin. You're on with Mike Harris. You're on a live radio broadcast on the Veterans Today Radio.com as well as Revolution Radio Networks. So you've got two audiences out here listening to you right now, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you.
So we were talking to Mr. Keshe about this kids program, and that how much easier it is to teach kids the new physics than it is to try to re-educate them and make them forget conventional physics before they can learn the new physics. So what's this process about? It's an open question for anybody who wants to answer it. How does this work?
The way I originally envision it is since the children are our future, I thought that it's a brilliant idea, to give this other half of the physics or the things that we haven't been learning in school, namely the plasma science that stands on its own. Teach that from the roots to the children and simultaneously to their parents. because these are totally new principles, and which need to be really understood and comprehended as a totality, as Mr. Keshe, used to say.
Okay. So what are we teaching? How are you transferring the knowledge to these kids?
The thing is, it all starts with the principle. The principles of this science are the fields or the plasma, and this is Mr. Keshe has really well illustrated this in the very first kids workshops with magnets, with ring magnets, for example. And he shows how how fields are of how we are surrounded by fields, how magnets, ring magnets, are interact with one another through their fields, through magnetical and gravitational fields, and the fields form the plasma. So before we speak about the fields, Mr. Keshe's intention was to teach the kids the correct principles, and that is plasma, as it's as a science for itself.
Okay. And how do the kids absorb this? How are they taking to it? Are they doing well?
Well, kids, I guess, are following the kids workshop. We haven't had so many chances because there's a lot of obstacles and barriers. For example, the language barrier. There are a lot of parents who would be interested but don't even don't have the time, or they don't speak the English language, and that is a barrier for itself. So we will find a way, I'm sure, to overcome these obstacles, because it's not about English-speaking children, it's about all the children on this planet Earth. So we need to, build up a structure. Eventually, I see it once the university structures in Italy start off, that we simultaneously are building structures to teach all children in not only English language but transcribed or translated into other languages. Starting with the very basic stuff, with the very basic principles. What is plasma?
Well, what is plasma? Why don't you tell us?
Plasma consists of magnetical and gravitational fields, which is, for me, if I may explain that, maybe Mr. Keshe can do that much better, but it's about attraction and repulsion. So these are two basic principle actions which take place, and a plasma is nothing else than finding a balance of magnetical and gravitational fields, and once you have a plasma with another plasma and with another plasma, then you go into the matter physics. That is whatever that is, molecules, physics, chemistry, biology, which we have been taught in school or whatever, in college, university, and this is about the essence and natural principles of creation. This is how I perceive it, how I understand it, and and it can be truly a lot of fun, if I may say that.
Okay, so I just lost my train of thought. You have to forgive me. We're juggling with some other technical issues here. Yeah. That would be outstanding. Thank you.
While Rick is trying that, let us explain something which is very fundamental. Dr. Davina uses the term magnetical. This term is unknown to common people, but within the Keshe Foundation, it's very well used and understood. One of the problems we have in the world of physics is everything is magnetic. We call the magnetic field of the Earth. So what we have made it very clear, when you have a magnet, they attract each other or they repel each other. So We call the attraction gravitational, and the repulsion, which is the interaction of two magnetic field of two entity, magnetical. So it's a clear separation, and calling magnetic field of the Earth is magnetical field of the Earth, because it's the repulsion field which every entity in the universe has. Earth has two things at the same time, gravitational and magnetical, which is the repulsion, what we call, that creates the atmosphere of this planet. So we call them magnetical and gravitational, which means the field forces created by interaction of two plasmatic fields. And then for short we call it MAGRAV, magnetic gravitational. So every plasma has both magnetical repulsion and attraction. Is when you have two magnets, if you have two similar poles that attract each other, the term in English gravitation, they gravitate towards each other. And if you put two similar poles facing each other, they push against each other, because it means they need a gap to allow all the fields to go from one entity into the other. So the separation point fields, we call it magnetical, and the interaction of the two, magnetical and gravitational, makes the magnet, that makes the plasma. The term which we don't use is north and south, because we call it the entry pole and exit pole. Like Earth, it's got an entry pole where all the fields go through the south pole, the bottom, and as they go through the planet Earth, they absorb some of the fields which are within the planet, released by the atomic structure, nuclear decay, and the rest of the materials in the planet. And when they come out of the North Pole, or the exit point, they are much stronger than when they went in. And we see this clearly by the temperature difference between the North Pole and the South Pole. There is a temperature difference on Earth of about 5 degrees, because the stronger field in interaction with the friction, and because they are stronger, they release more energy, so we see a warmer pole compared to the south. And we see this on the sun, it's 30 degrees temperature difference between the exit pole and the entry pole at the south. So this is how we explain the new physics that is understood. These are ambiguities in the world of physics which never understood. We never knew why. For example, we create light on Earth, on the surface of, why we have light whenever there is an interaction of the fields. Now we can explain these things. At the same time, we show in a simple way to children that it's not, plasma is not a two-directional field, but it's a spherical, and their interaction counts. And understanding this, if you have two magnets, a ring magnet, or you can make a spherical magnet as a plasma, if you bring them together, not flat on the table, but standing up, you find out the field is much extended, and the direction of flow of one dictates the direction of the flow of the other one. And so, if, for example, you put two magnets on the floor, on the table, if you bring one magnet which is slightly weaker, can go closer or further from the other one. So it's the gravitational magnetical field which dictates the position of one magnet in respect to another, or one plasma in respect to another. So the position of the Earth is dictated by the gravitational field and magnetical field of the Earth in respect to the Sun. And so, in a simple way, we try to get these youngsters to understand the totality, and then they find their own way to explain the whole structure of the physics and chemistry. And this is how simple children understand. And in a way, now we understand, for example, as we say in our teachings, why Venus rotates clockwise. We know this because the hypocrisy that, for example, Venus was hit by the meteorite and changed its direction is totally non-acceptable, because we can show with the systems we have. Venus is rotating clockwise due to gravitational magnetic field created by the internally and its position in respect to the sun. And if we increase the power of the sun, the planet will rotate clockwise, which can show it, it's been shown a number of times. Or if we increase the gravitational magnetic field of the Mars, it will start going clockwise, anti-clockwise. So the hypocrisy that the Venus rotating in the opposite direction is not correct. It's a physical interaction of the plasmatic magnetical and gravitational field of the planet in respect to the strength of the gravitational magnetic field of the sun and its position at this moment. When the Venus gets pulled further in a few million years, it starts going clockwise like every other planet. And you can see this in experiments we've shown before in different teachings. So we are teaching the correct way, that the true work of the physics, not assumptions which has been made up to now.
Yeah. I'm trying to watch your live stream. I'm trying to watch your live stream feed, but I can't see it here, so I'm at a disadvantage on that. So, what else do we want to share with the listeners relative to the kids' workshops?
You had Mike on the phone, on the line?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, Mike is here. I just wanted to say thank you, Mike, for having us on the show. It's an honor.
Well, the pleasure is mine, and thank you. So,
all right. For the live stream for the kids, Rick, if you can pull up the picture number 1 of magnetic polarity for me, and I will start explaining. I'm going to try and be as visual as I can with my words so that the radio listeners can understand as well.
Well, go ahead.
We have about a 30-second delay between the live stream and the video, so I'm waiting for it to come up. So, all right. Magnetic polarity is talking about the fundamental elements that are in space, as Mr. Keshe calls them. What are they called, Mr. Keshe?
I'm listening.
I'm trying to remember it. They're called antimatter and matter.
In the normal world, we call it principal matter and transition matter.
That's correct. The principal matter and the transition matter. What you're seeing on the screen are blue circles and red circles that have pluses and minuses. Okay. The plus is the positive polarity, the minus is the negative polarity. Okay. And they have invisible rings or spheres around them that dictate whether or not they're attracted to the other. Okay. Just like any magnets. Okay. If you put two ends together that are the same polarity, they're going to repel, right? So in nature, in space, all around us, okay, we have these positive and negative principal fields that are constantly searching for each other, and they're attracted, Okay. So, next slide, Rick. When they finally meet each other, all right, they're attracted magnetically, just like you would have the opposite ends of the magnet. They're stuck together, right? So what happens is that you have the positive charge and you have the negative charge, and when they join together, okay, they create a spark of life, okay? Not necessarily life, but the spark of life. And almost instantaneously, if not instantaneously, there is a protective bubble, a lot like if you were to picture a soap bubble that comes around the two principal fields, okay? And what happens is that the two DC currents from the principal fields, the red and the blue, when they join, okay, that electricity, that energy has to go somewhere, okay? So it goes in a circle. But just because there's two circles there, it's an infinity loop. In other words, it's constantly going to be moving in a clockwise direction, okay? So I want you to imagine taking a wire or a tube or anything that's circular, okay, that's flexible, and twisting it in half, okay? So in the middle, they cross, and then you have two smaller circles, all right? That's what we're trying to picture here. Now, what happens is that DC current from the negative side will start in the center. It'll go up to the right on the red, and it'll follow the rotation of the Earth to the right, okay? When it meets in the middle, it switches polarity and turns to a positive polarity, okay? And then it follows it to the left all the way around, and then it comes back to the center where it switches back to the negative polarity, all right? When that happens, that is when alternating current is formed in our nano world. All right, next slide, Rick. The principal fields, in my descriptions, I have them as matter, antimatter, and dark matter. That is, for verification of Mr. Keshe, but this is my perception of it. The positive side is the matter side, okay? The negative side is the antimatter side, all right? And when the two of them come together, they create that field around it, and that holds the dark matter in between, okay? The dark matter is the matter and antimatter. I'm not going to say that because I'm not 100% sure. When matter and antimatter join together, they share electricity. They don't combine together, but are held together like magnets on a metal surface. Picture batteries in your devices at home, okay? You should be able to see it. The two batteries on there. The positive terminal on your battery has the little nipple on it, and then the flat side is your negative terminal. So if you're looking at the two batteries, you can kind of visualize how the current is going to flow from those batteries into your device, okay? Remember, there's two ends to the batteries. So you're going to have two currents started, and then they're combined together to give power to your device. All right, next slide. Slide number 4. AC, or alternating current, is created when the electrons start in the center and move like the hands of a clock, or clockwise, and cross over the center again. Once it crosses, it changes polarity and switches back and forth. It alternates between positive and negative, hence alternating current. All right, to kind of give you a perspective on the amount of energy that we're working with here, Okay. One cycle, or 1 hertz, as we call it in the electronics industry, is one complete cycle through the circuit that an electron has to follow. Okay, no matter how big the circuit is, if you just had 1 electron that went in there, it would take it 1 second to complete an entire circuit for 1 hertz. Okay, to kind of give you an idea, most homes have 110 volts or 240 volts at 60 hertz, which means that your electricity runs through your home 60 times per second. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with nanohertz, okay, 1 hertz or 1 nanohertz, 1 hertz is equal to 1 trillion nanohertz per second. Trillion. Next slide. That's a lot of power for a single atom. All right, next slide.
It's his story.
All right. Can you still hear me?
We can hear you fine. You sound good.
Okay, it's really quiet. Next slide, Mr. Drake. Okay, game up. Making AC by nanocoding. All right, what we're dealing with all of this technology that Mr. Keshe has been so graciously willing to share with the world, it's all dealing with nanocoding, dealing with atoms. Okay, taking the power of something that we see every day, like a standard piece of copper wire or something, okay, and turning that copper wire into 1 trillion times more power. All right, and that's what we're working with on the nanocoding process. All right, we're taking everyday stuff. In this picture, you'll see my depiction. It's very hard to describe atoms being stripped off of the copper and then being oxidized and being attracted back to the copper wire. So in the picture, you're going to see a bunch of red dots in what I call the negatively charged nanoparticles. Okay, they should actually be copper particles coming off of the copper wire. It strips it, and like a slingshot, it automatically pulls it back because it's magnetized to that copper. Okay, but you'll see what we call with the Keshe Foundation the caustic procedure. It may not be perfectly as the way Mr. Keshe does it, but this is what's worked for me, and this is what I know that works for sure. So you put aluminum foil pieces inside of a plastic container. All right, I cut mine up to about 4-inch squares, and I cover the entire bottom. And then I put plastic Coke bottle tops, okay, the one that's got the where you screw the lid onto it without the lid. But I cut the top off and I leave, maybe 1 inch or so of plastic on it. You add that next to a couple of those next to your aluminum foil, okay? Then you add sodium hydroxide, okay? Or in this case, I use Drano crystals that I can buy at Walmart. All right, you have to use the crystals. You can't use the liquid that I know of right now. And then you add boiling hot water to it with your copper in there, and you put the lid on it. All right, it's going to steam, and the steam in there is what's going to rip the atoms off of that copper wire, okay? And it's changed the atmosphere around the wire, so now it's no longer positively charged. It's negatively charged when they come off, or as soon as it's stripped off the copper wire, it becomes negatively charged and is attracted back to the copper. All right. If it's done right, I believe that Mr. Keshe has told us that you can't see a nano layer, a complete nano layer, but at 15,000 layers thick, okay, is when it starts to turn black, that we can see with our visible eye. So if it's all black, then you can pretty much guarantee that your entire wire is covered, okay, or your material that you're using, any copper piece. Next slide. When you nanocoat ordinary objects like bare copper, you change its natural polarity on the surface. Okay, and my picture, you can see the polarity. The inside of the wire is still positively charged, but the outside of the wire has all of these negatively charged copper atoms that are stuck to it like a magnet. Okay, so bare copper is naturally positively charged. The negatively charged nanomaterials sticks to the copper like teeny tiny magnets. Next slide. All right. As slide number 7. This is the last slide.
Okay, the last slide. We'll give you 5 more minutes, and then we got to move on. But
yes, sir. This is the last slide right
no
here.
worries. We're all good. All good.
All right. When the first fundamental elements come together, they make a duality, okay, or an infinity loop as opposed to before. All right. Slide number 7 shows you how to make an infinity loop and create a duality using copper wire and then nanocoating it. Okay. First one, you bend the wire in half. All right. You're going to have a round edge. Number 2, twist the round end clockwise. All right. Number 3, connect the 2 open ends and twist them together clockwise. And then you nanocoat your wire. All right. And that is how you complete an infinity loop. And the next section, when this happens, we'll go into how you can, what happens after you nanocoat it. So, but that is my presentation for the kids. I do have the kids here on the line. They're waiting if you'd like to speak with them.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, but I think we're going to keep the show moving. We've got a lot of material to cover. But tell the kids we said hi, and hopefully they'll stick with this and learn a lot and be the next generation to advance this this new physics technology.
Well, thank you very much for having us, and I appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you. Pleasure is mine. Okay, Mr. Keshe, welcome back.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Maybe
good.
I can just explain something very simple in what was just explained. You have to understand the significance of what just been taught to a child. To produce nanomaterial on the material itself has been unknown till we released this technology. And to produce these pure nano layers or nanomaterial has been costing millions of dollars for different governments to be able to produce a pure nanomaterial. So you can produce nanomaterial as less than 1 cent. And then now we are teaching how this can be used for energy production, for farming, and the rest in the Keshe Foundation teachings. And that's why we are opening the university next month. Bringing science to absolute basic, that you do not need to be a genius, anybody can do. At the same time, every man, every corner of the planet can feed itself if they know how to use this technology as we are teaching now, and how to produce energy as no cost. It's very simple language, but there is a huge significance in nanotechnology. Up to now, nanotechnology has been a very big thing, like when nuclear was in 70s and 80s. Now you can see how simple nanotechnology has become through the new discoveries and the simplicity that we produce it.
Okay. All right, Mr. Keshe. Okay, somebody's got a speaker open. I'm hearing a feedback loop. I'm hearing my own voice, so you have to, turn that speaker down or mute it. Whoever. Okay. All right. Anyway, Mr. Keshe, you've been working on some other things as well. Why don't you give us an update? As most of the listeners know, I was there to visit you in December, a week or so before Christmas, and got to see a lot of things going on in your location near Lake Garda. But since then, I understand you've relocated and you've moved. And tell us what's new in the world.
We are moving. We haven't moved yet. We'll be moving in the next 48 hours. The reason for move is that we have come to collaboration with LUM University, LUM in south of Italy, and in partnership we have established the Keshe Foundation Space Institute, which means we start accepting students in the master and undergraduates to teach the new principles of the technology. So in the past over a year, I've been teaching individuals here in Lake Garda. Now we go to south of Italy in the beautiful facilities. If you go on the spaceshipinstitute.org, you can see the video, the presentation, and where we are going to, where we can mass teach the technology. And we have departed from the present situation of everything has to be hidden. Our lectures will be broadcast live, and the workshops like this twice a week will be done live. And anything we discover or any development done by the Keshe Foundations around the world, they'll share openly. So we don't believe in patents. The knowledge, like the way Mike just explained to you, making a nanomaterial is not a secret, it's open, you can do it. And we teach in Chinese translation, in Spanish translation, in Italian, and for the children. We have a medical section teaching, and we have a general workshops. So then if your dream has been to become an astronaut, or you wanted to become a space scientist, now you can do it in the environment of the Spaceship Institute. So we are moving down south 800 kilometers from where we are now, and the opening of the official opening of the institute is on 23rd of April, and a number of dignitaries have been invited by the university and by the foundation. And I think you, Mike, you are one of them who's coming in as well, if I'm correct.
Well, we think we've got a dignitary scheduled to come in. We think we've got one agreed to, but I'm pretty sure we do.
You got somebody you know very well invited to as a speaker.
Yes, I do. Got that taken care of. But we're going to keep his name off the air right now. He's primarily a pretty shy individual, so we'll keep that in the back in the back channel right now.
Yes. So if your dream has been to go to space or learn about the space technology, this is the opportunity which we are giving to every man on this planet, every man or woman. And we start in September, hopefully this year, or latest next year, the same kind of education from basic foundation for children. So we teach undergraduate, we teach children from the primary school up to the graduation as masters. And at the same time, as you are fully aware, one of our knowledge seekers in America is trying to set up the Spaceship Institute of United States as a university course or organization. And we have already spoken with our Chinese colleagues that to start the Chinese Keshe Foundation Space Institute, that the Chinese can carry on with the same thing in the space.
So, Mr. Keshe, what you're doing is somewhat of a novel approach, in that this technology that you're exploring, developing, propagating, you're not limiting it to any one country, but you're sharing it freely with every country around the world. What is your purpose and intention behind this? I already know the answer, but I want the listeners to know.
Our intention is world peace. When everybody has the same thing and the same technology, when there is no hunger, when there is no shortage of energy, when there is no shortage of food, when there is no pollution, we'll find peace. Man always has progressed when there's been a peacetime, much faster than the wartime. On the other hand, they say it's a dream, but we don't have a dream. You can go on all the Keshe Foundation teachings on the forum and the live stream. You see people around the world are doing everything the same. They're growing, testing plants, they are creating energy, they are testing the cleaning up the environment using the material by capture of CO2. If you go on our website, keshefoundation.org, you see we are the only organization in the world who's marketing physically units which capture the CO2 from the air. But because we've been up to now as an institute with the Iranian nuclear physicists at the head of it, now that become an international institute, you will see it go public. What this means, we have never seen gases in a solid state. So now we developed the technology in a simple, you can buy it for about $29 or €35, whatever it is on the site. And you can capture the CO2 from there in a solid state. It's a whitish, creamish color. And then not only you capture it, which will help the environment, then you can use it to do all sorts of things with it. You go on the Keshe Foundation website, on the live stream, and you see what the Chinese are doing, what the Mexicans are doing, what different scientists around the world are doing with this thing.
Well, Mr. Keshe, what are they doing with this?
They're using it for production of energy. They're using it as a fertilizer. They're using it to create high, value magnetic fields. As you know, NASA, what do you call it? The laboratories in US have used megawatts of energy to produce about 100 Tesla. Late last year, we managed to produce 129 Tesla with only 12 watts. And so Las Almas, using such a heavy power to use it, cannot accept it because they don't understand the power of the plasma. They're using on the vibration of electron. We are testing flight system. We have managed to reduce weight, to increase weight. And at the same time, I am not spoon feeding, but I'm teaching that everybody learns at the same time. At the moment today, the Japanese government has spent millions of dollars up to now on the situation with Fukushima using the Keshe Foundation technology. It's one of the only hopes, the last hopes left to find a solution. We have received waters from the Fukushima plant. We tested it. One of our knowledge seekers last year live showed it in Japan how it can be absorbed, the radiation. The scientists in Japan, with the instruction of the Office of the Prime Minister and Ministry of Finance, watched the presentations live from Fukushima, and they took all the data which was there, and they took all the materials which was left, and they tested it. They found there is a possibility of a solution. So they brought the waters for us, we tested it, they took material back from us, and the fourth stage of the final stage has been going on for past 4 weeks, and hopefully it will be completed by end of this month or early April, where by adding materials which we have suggested, and I explained to the scientists at Fukushima plant and the Japanese government, a few drops of a material reduces the radiation to absolute zero. And then the decontamination can start. Because at the moment, the biggest problem is cesium and tritium. We have shown that how we can literally bring the radiation of tritium gamma ray to zero. We do not destroy, this is the beauty of it. We do not destroy the cesium, we don't do anything. But by introducing a new material in the environment, we create a condition where the radiation loops back in itself. So it does not leak to the environment. When you do examinations of different high-level scientific tests on it, it shows still as a cesium, but without radiation, which has been unknown. This is exactly what Mike explained in a very simple way. We create a loop in conjunction with the radioactive material, so the radiations are going to environment gets into the infinity loop. And we have seen this now. There are further developments with this going. Radiation. We have shown it. If you go on the internet, look at the Fukushima Plant Keshe Foundation. You see the test on the waters of the fire station in Fukushima about last May by one of our knowledge seekers, Yukoko, a beautiful woman who joined us as a knowledge seeker. Now she's left us. It showed that there were zero radiation and clean water. It's a huge application. Hopefully we see some results from it from the Japanese government. They'll be open and they'll publish the report. And the situation has been so positive that we have literally flown three different amounts of different materials to Fukushima direct for testing. They asked for more because the results are there. And at the same time, this allows to literally muffle the whole of the reactor number 1 in Fukushima directly in the plant without moving any material from the site. This is a huge breakthrough. If we come with the data and everything agrees, then even Chernobyl can be mothballed very safely, and any other nuclear plant. Which means
so there might be a method to take all of the 457 nuclear plants around the world that are obviously have defective designs and safely retire them, so that we're no longer living with that ever-present danger hanging over us?
no, we don't need to close them, but we know if anything happens, we have a position to be able to safeguard ourselves. There is a position now that we are looking at development of the extraction of the radioactive material from environment on air. We can do it from the water. We have to wait another 2 or 3 weeks till the Japanese government announces their test result. Our material has already been tested, they know, but they're looking for a continuity of the result because of the position we've taken. Italian Nuclear Center has already confirmed the reduction in cesium, radiation, and gamma ray, but they don't understand the work of the nanomaterials the way we produce it. And in a way, we don't need to mothball the nuclear reactors. We can run them and know them. We don't need to decommission them. We can add this material to the system and let it run for years and years. It's a huge change in nuclear industry. It depends how much the American government allows the Japanese to leak out in the report. We know what we've done, we know what it can be done. So in a way, we don't need to go to huge cost of decommissioning. We just add the material to the reactor and the reactor stays safe for millions of years. Because the number of nuclear materials in the fuel is constant. It doesn't change. Even if it decays, you can add material. So you lock the field of the neutron into the field of one material. Let me explain to some things which people think this is very funny. The radiation from any nuclear material comes from the excess energy, which is gravitational magnetic field, of the neutron. So neutron is trying to decay to become an atom, electron and a proton, a hydrogen atom. So if we can allow the energy, the excess energy of that neutron to be locked up to the material, then you have no nuclear radiation. So nuclear materials become safe. This we need this technology for a space. There is something which is fundamental. We call it Keshe Spaceship Institute. We develop these technologies for high field radiation in space. So this is a good test for us that in space we don't get radiation. And we don't have the dangers of the radiation in the deep space, because it's full of gamma and above gamma rays which we are not aware of now. One of the problems our astronauts have at the moment, all of them, if you read the reports, they see flashing lights in their eyes, like a camera flash. And these camera flashes they see is the high radiation dosage which crosses their brain and it gets into the liquid of their eye and it becomes a light, it becomes a photon. If you're in deep space and absorb so much energy in your brain, on the long term, you go mental. You become, God knows, demented. So we need to develop technologies to protect man in deep space from high level radiation. And unfortunately for human race, but fortunately for the new science, we have a condition of Fukushima where we can test it deeply. So this is part of the process now.
Just let me give you my impression of whenever I was there to visit you last December. And that was, you had put together what seemed like many of the pieces to take mankind into space, whether it's the growing of synthetic proteins for food, whether it was an anti-grav lift system, whether it was the nanomaterials for light and energy. It seems like you were trying to put together all the discrete components needed to build a holistic environment that would allow mankind to survive in space. That was my impression. That's what I wrote in my report. So why don't you confirm for me how right or wrong I was?
You're 100% right. I'm a nuclear physicist. I have a line of thinking that going to space, living in what I call a fuel tank, we call it whatever, a space lab, floating like a leaf, is not natural. And secondly, if we lose the line of food or energy to the lab, they die. So I looked at the structure of the universe, how planetary systems work. They produce their own energy, they produce their own light, they produce their own heat, they produce their own protection, they produce everything is needed. So we have replicated the technology and it seems to be correct. The only problem is that now we can go to space without ever looking back on planet when the next supply will come. As you were in the lab, you've seen it. From the air, fresh air, we produce protein, which is natural. I've explained it in my papers. And now in the past few weeks, we have shown how we can produce hemoglobin from fresh air. It's been documented in the teachings. And now we have the facility to produce a full sustainable life in deep space, where you have a zero gravity, as you have now in the space lab, is non-existence. You have a 1G condition. You live the lifestyle on Earth. You produce, what you breathe out as CO2 and the other materials from your body becomes the food of amino acid that becomes your food, and then the energy the same. We are, according to the people at highest level in NASA, we are 50 to 70 years ahead of NASA, any other space program. The reason we are unknown has been as I just told you, is the color of my passport. If I would have had an American passport, I would have been more than Einstein. But having an Iranian and not changing my nationality, 40 years living in Europe, is the biggest curse for them. But it's a beautiful thing because it's allowing us to develop the technology in a very deep way, but across the humanity. There are over 100 Keshe foundations around the world in small groups or national groups. This is good for us because the root is learning how to do it. Man on the street has become a scientist that he can help himself to produce energy and food, and we teach him how to do it.
Hey, Mr. Keshe, I hear our break music coming up. We're going to have about a 3-minute break, so everyone can go get some refreshment or whatever. We'll be back in a few minutes right after this short break. Stick with us, folks. More with Mr. Keshe. Be right back.
Thank you.
is Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day for those of you out there. 2015. My guest today is Mr. Keshe. So, Mr. Keshe, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So, where do you want to go from here? I think I have some questions for you and stuff. And like I stated, it seems like you've put together all the essential components for to get mankind into space. What are your next steps? What is your timeline? What are the ultimate goals?
The ultimate goal is taking mankind to space in a peaceful manner. The ultimate goal is to establish peace on this planet, that we can work collectively as one race, not under different names and nationalities and flags. And as I see, the way I see it happening around millions of supporters of Keshe Foundation around the world, we have managed to bring a group of people who are of the same kind, and they are growing very rapidly. Where, as you've seen, Mike and the others, if you go on the Keshe Foundations around the world, they are sharing knowledge that they all be equal, and equality brings peace. And that's our goal, that when we go to space, we go out as a peaceful race. Because in the space we'll be annihilated if we think of war. There are much more advanced races than us, and they know how to wipe us out if we go out with the wrong intentions. So, if you are peaceful, you guarantee survival of man in space. Secondly, anyone who supports us or has any connection with the Keshe Foundation, we ask them to sign themselves into what we call the World Peace Treaty. That not only they don't think about war or weapons or taking part in one, they don't even work or act in that field. So as more people are stop doing it because they sign themselves into peace treaty, then we achieve world peace in a very rapid way. But the world peace cannot be a talk. We are the only organization not only talking about achieving world peace, but we're delivering the tools for it to be achieved.
Well, let me ask a question here, because you just said something interesting, and that is that they can't participate in war at all. And I think this probably includes the business of war. So if you're a metal worker, for instance, and you're working for a company that makes missiles that are used in war, you would quit your job and go find some other job in the metalworking space, and not have anything to do with continuing the business of war, if you will.
The problem with your line of talking is totally irrelevant in respect to Keshe Foundation. When the computers came, they said it's going to put a lot of people out of work. This is the same process. It's going to create so much job that we don't know what to do with it. The technology in a touch you just seen explained to you how to make nanomaterials. There is so much to do. Now we are creating systems to detect plasma in 3-dimensional, in magnetical and gravitational. Now we produced a CO2 kit. Through the same thing, we done what we call a pain pads, that you can just put it around the pain in your body, and within a few times usage, the pain goes. So we start not talking, but releasing technology into public. You can go on the Keshe Foundation and buy these systems. Other people have started doing it. Then now it's the cleaning of the air. Then it's the cleaning of the water. And then is everything else, producing food without fertilizer. One of the biggest things at the moment is Monsanto with their seed control. If you dip your seed for a few seconds or a few minutes into the CO2 you capture from the air, which is in the bucket you can buy from the Keshe Foundation, you destroy any genetic modification done to the seed. So start having applications.
Okay, now wait, let me make sure this is clear, because I want the listeners to understand this, because I don't. So if we take this CO2, this gas that's been turned into a solid,
it's a liquid. state.
And into a liquid state. And then you take, let's say, Monsanto's genetically modified corn that's got other genetics in it. It will reverse the genetic modification and turn it
Yes.
back into a pristine state as if it
Yes.
was natural. Okay.
Yes, because we tested it. We know we are correct. We run trials for nearly 4 or 5 years. I've done different tests myself. What happened? You have to understand the science behind it. Otherwise, it's a fairy tale. A GANS, what we call CO2, is in the state of nanoplasma of CO2. Mike explained to you nano layering when they're attached to each other. We've developed a technology in a very simple way, exactly as a leaf of a tree. A leaf absorbs CO2. There is no mechanism, there is no factory inside the tree to absorb CO2 and give oxygen back. We have discovered the method of doing it. So what you do, we have created an environment where it creates the plasmatic condition magnetic field of a CO2, which absorbs exactly like a leaf CO2 from the tree, and it changes it to the sap, but you capture it as a CO2 in a like a solid liquid state. Now, this CO2 is a plasma. A plasma is the sun. Sun is a plasma. It releases energy. So when you put your seed inside the liquid for a few seconds or a few minutes, because tests has been done by scientists, we in the next few weeks, I don't have a time to finish checking the paper. We release the pictures and everything of the growth of the seed. So the energy of the seed interacts with the seed itself, and literally it's like what you call it, like deactivates what's been activated according to the density of the field in the seed. So whatever has been added to the genetic of the seed, automatically it goes back to itself. It's exactly how it works in Fukushima. We absorb the energy. They added to it, so you take away from it, or gets mixed into or added by the CO2 to the seed. And when you cultivate it, you go back to the original. We even seen the seeds which have been left for 2 or 3 hours, and sometimes 2 or 3 days. When you grow them, the wheat becomes like grass. It grows like a grass. You can cut it like a grass. It goes back to its origin that far. So in time, now that we open the university section of the university, now the Spanish have started, Spanish Keshe Foundation has started, Spanish speaking Keshe Foundation from Mexico. They have started even putting CO2 in the ring around the tree to see how it grows without actually touching the seed. So you use the field of it. The changes are played. The universe works on plasma. Universe is created out of plasma, and universe operates totally on the plasma condition. Atom is a plasma of 2 plasmas, electron and a proton. Electron is a plasma. Sun is a plasma. Earth is a plasma condition because it has both gravity and magnetical. So in this condition, you can interact the fields of the CO2 with the fields of the plasma of the seed, entities of the seed, which again is protein based. Wheat is a softer protein than the meat, but it still is a kind of protein. As you were in our lab and you mentioned, you've seen how we are, while we are capturing CO2, we produce protein on the top layer of the water, because nitrogen, oxygen, carbon and hydrogen are in the air. When you extract or create a magnetic field of the CO2 in the water, as it's coming in, it brings with itself protein as well to be captured on the surface. So you can use the protein now when we do the less than confirm it for food production, for eating, as a protein, a substitute. So now the field of CO2 changes the characteristic of the field of the seed. So you go back, depends how far you want to go back. Monsanto, gene modification is over, it's finished. Monsanto spent billions of dollars to control the seed. Now it's in the hand of the public. My life is not in danger anymore. People are doing it all over the world. And this was the whole purpose of my work. To give the knowledge to the world that no one can control no one. And we've seen it, Chinese, if you go on the Keshe Foundation in China, in their first program, they showed how they've used CO2 in China, and They grew Chinese leaf, lettuce leaf, and the ones which were not fed on the ground with it, they're frozen, and the ones which had the CO2 stayed as fresh and good. And the root structure has changed. Today in the Mexican teaching, our Spanish group have shown that they put a ring around the plant with the CO2 in it, a plastic ring with the CO2 gas in it, what we call gases in nanomaterial, which you capture in your unit. And they've tested it in Germany, and in all the frost and everything of the winter, the plant is still as if nothing happened. It's like summer condition for it, still green and growing. So people and governments are spending money to develop this technology, and they're trying to understand. It's a new science. We have to understand it and how to control it. But in fact, our body is made of the same material. This is what we didn't know. We have discovered now for the first time how our body is made and how it works. And if you go on the Keshe Foundation health section, we explain organ by organ, pieces by pieces, the bone, the heart, the brain, how everything works. And how we apply this in health section, how we apply this in making the effect of chemotherapy to be good, and you can live with chemotherapy, with the operation we developed. And now we have a volunteer in Germany monitored by the chemotherapy center. He's been with us for 14, 18 months. His son was with me this afternoon. They gave him 1.5 years to live after the operation with 2 courses of 5 months chemotherapy. The blood test came in because the chemotherapy center and 2 doctors monitored the blood every month. We used to do it every week, now we do it every month. There is no sign of cancer, and the blood is better than a 14-year-old boy. By understanding, we are changing, and so we are teaching. And it doesn't stay with me anymore. I'm teaching it freely to the public, the world public, and they are using it. And they are teaching each other. Go on the forums of Keshe Foundation, go on the live streams, on the Skypes of Keshe Foundation, you see they are freely teaching each other whatever they've done, and they're openly putting it on the table. So there is no patent, there is no control. We have done with the patent business. It's so many of us, 7 billion of us. You can make enough money to live a happy life if you want to produce it for your neighbor and your nation. But the structure of the control is out. And secondly, when people see they can do it themselves, and we are showing more and more, we start creating the point of peace. Knowledge is shared freely. It's never been done in the Keshe Foundation Institute. In our spin-offs, in our laboratories, there's going to be a camera. You can any day watch anything we do. Any discoveries, you know the second we discover. And our students will teach in their own nationals, in their own national language. We need a lot of good scientists from America and around the world to join us, to teach and to bring this technology very rapidly into a proper way that everybody benefits by it. The position is, we have found solution for a lot of diseases, but up to now, it was me teaching it. Now it'll be a number of scientists, hundreds of thousands of them in the coming years, that they teach and they develop. We do live sessions. We talk to our Chinese colleagues that the teaching in the institute in Italy will be live broadcasted in the universities in China. We are talking to the people in Sofia. We are talking to African nations because they can't afford paying for scientists to go to teach. So we do teach them directly from the teaching rooms, live, as anybody in Italy or America learns. You were in a meeting past few days with one of our Keshe Foundation directors of the America, and you know what is the plan for America now. We start teaching it directly in American university, directly the way it's set up. We've done it here. Our knowledge seeker Armin is setting up the structure in US. So you don't need to wait for NASA to do something for you. You can become astronaut or spaceman, I call it. We call it motions, man-oriented gravitational system, in a space yourself. You can teach us. We are learning every week. People come online and teach us what they discovered. We have made knowledge free, unconditional, and in a way we have created a community of peace, and it's growing by hundreds of thousands every month. We don't go and preach. we teach freely, we give knowledge freely. The ones who see the benefit on it, they do it. The ones who want to make money out of it and they see us as a danger, that they don't stay rich, they see us as a danger because of their financial gain, and those people are very soon won't be on the table, as we've seen it.
Well, what is your everybody wants to know, how soon till we can start building spaceships and get off this rock, so to speak?
The problem is not having it. The problem is controlling it. There are two nations which fully have developed and developing this technology deeply. One is Russia and one is Iran. We know Syrians were about, just before the internal war, they're given the technology by Iran. They were doing it, and it was too close to Israel. We have opened our patents, so everybody can do it. There are 2 or 3 problems, as we have seen now. We have shown the structure of how to make the plasma, how to make a free energy. Don't forget, one of our systems, if you go on the live stream, is about 11 kilo, 160 gram. We have managed to reduce its weight to 10.6 kilogram and increase it to 14 kilogram. And the total material we use is less than 10 gram. Not even 10 gram, maybe 2 or 3 gram. And we don't burn any fuel. We use gravity of the material of the plasma of what you capture in the CO2 box to create magnetic gravitational positioning in respect to Earth, and we move. So there is no burning. When we open our reactors, we have the same material as we put it in after the testing, weeks and weeks. So now we know how to get the fuel, we know how to move. The problem is now we need instrumentation of control, and that's what this year we start doing. The Keshe Foundation group in China are developing a system of control for plasma, in detecting it, that we can measure it. Then we need a control system of the 3-dimensional for the whole system. I have a nice lady from Bulgarian University joining us. She's specializing in 3-dimensional space movement. And then we get scientists to come together. I know there is a lot of, information and knowledge in NASA, in Boeing. Interesting enough, as you know, Mike, I'm the only head of a space organization. I'm the only nuclear physicist in plasma technology space who is banned by NASA to be in their chat rooms because they saw me as a threat.
Well, they also invited you to the U.S. at one time. I saw your invitation.
Yes,
so
yes, they hassled with Washington to get me in to give a lecture at the. They even cleared me for seeing the secret military sites of NASA, and Washington says no. But the problem is theirs, is not ours, because it's the last kick of a dying cat, as I call it. NASA jet propulsion is over, is finished. Because how do you can literally fly out the roof of your house. You can do what NASA does 1,000 times better. Just go and look. You can buy a star formation lift from China. Chinese have produced it and they're sending us as a gift. So now the knowledge is in the hand of every man to have the freedom to do it. And this is what it was surprising. I was talking to one of the Russian scientists. He said, Americans never learn till it's too late. How can you ban one of the top scientists in the space plasma technology to be in your chat room? It shows you are weak, then your hand is opened. DARPA is heavily behind it. For me not to be known, but in America we are very strong. A lot of people know and they will follow. The beauty of it is now the Keshe Foundation is spread across the world, so it's not one man anymore. And our organization, even our forum, our website, is handled by all sorts of nationalities. They don't even know each other, but they continuously work to develop it further and increase it.
So what kind of a timeline do we have? Are we looking at 5 years, 50 years? Where are we?
At end of this year.
End of this year. Okay.
End of this year, we should have the equipments to be able to measure. We have managed to land. If you go on the live stream, you've seen it. We have managed to land from 35, 40 centimeters. We don't work on levitation. We work on the plasma technology. So we have managed to land our system. We have managed to reduce its weight that if we know it literally hovers off the ground like a feather. Because we don't have the right equipment to understand where the switch transition point is, which is getting developed in China and hopefully in Italy very soon, then we can dictate the position of where we want to stay, what is we have to change. We are working at the moment blind. If I open the channel of the operation with the Iranian government and the American government, the Russian government, we will have the technology in no time. It's already used and tested by the Iranians and by the Russians. So the problem is now people are doing it without depending on governments and nations. So if you go to the Iranians and go to the Russians, you already can fly because they are doing it. They're using the system in different ways. If you leave it to human race without the governments, we have to do it ourselves the way we are doing it. It's a beautiful collaboration. We have Canadians, we have Americans, we have what do you call it, Eastern Bloc, we have Europeans, we have Chinese, we have Australians. All the scientists are working together with the unconditional, open. They discover, they put it on the net. They explain to each other what they've done to be. This was unheard of 12 months ago. This was unheard. People talk, show how to make nano materials on the edge of science, produce energy from them, you can go and see, and put it on the net freely. This is the change. Trust in each other. And that's what has been lacking the human race. We did not trust each other. We lost the trust, and the trust was lost through the promotion of color, race, and religion. And now this is over. We see the Chinese working with Christians, the Muslims, the Jews. They're all in it. They're all feeding each other. We see national security of different nations on the line, learning and teaching. So we brought the change in. Now it's got to grow.
Well, I recall a couple months ago that the U.S. had sent an Aegis-class destroyer into the Black Sea to sort of flex a little military muscle, let the Russians know that, hey, we've got resources we could project into the Black Sea as well. And I remember that a Russian bomber flew by, and somehow all of the electrical systems on that Aegis destroyer shut down. And it was so much so that all of the commissioned officers on that ship resigned their commissions because they felt there was no way that they could uphold their duty, that they would be found for neglect because they couldn't defend their ship. Any comments on that? I've got a little inside knowledge on this, so I'm just going to ask you for your comments.
Let me put it this way. When the most strongest man on this planet, the President of the United States, goes on the international television and asks for one of the most advanced technologies in flight system, and he calls it a toy to diminish the importance of what it is, when the most advanced aircraft, American spy plane, was captured by Iranian the day after I announced we're going to show the power on the 4th of December 2011. I announced it on the Saturday the 3rd of December. It's going to happen something very soon. It shows that the knowledge when I was in Iran was set up and the Iranians have completed it. Understanding that your spy plane, now you call it a toy because you can't say if it was so advanced, which was controlled by a number of satellites. You had a self-destruction unit inside. It was going as supersonic, was brought down and landed safely. Then you understand the power of the technology. The most advanced military planes are not safe anymore because they can be brought down. At the same time, if you go on the Keshe Foundation Chinese section last week, the Chinese have started, they show it in their program, testing these systems for underwater. So you can bring any submarine to the bottom of the ocean because you just increase weight. As I told you, We have a system which is gone from 11, actually it went from 1062, 10 kilogram, 620 gram, to for nearly 14 kilogram. So you put a weight underneath of the system, it costs less than $20 or maybe $50. So the submarine never comes up. The Russians use two planes. They use one as a gravitational and the second one as a magnetical. So they literally brought the whole system down. There is no way you can restart it again. It's a replication of the capture of the American spy plane in 2011. And don't forget, a lot of people said it was accidentally it fell. But for its anniversary, the same day as I announced it, the Iranian captured the second one to celebrate his birthday. So it cannot be coincidental. The problem sits with the American administration. The American administration sees Keshe Foundation as a threat. Now the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute is the biggest friend you ever had. The friendship comes that what you claim to try to achieve peace, we are achieving peace. As you know, President Obama, His Excellency President Obama sent me a private letter, private personal letter a couple of years ago, explaining why he has to be the head of such a strong nation. And I sent him through our people in US a world peace treaty to sign. And I said in one of my talks, I send you the message of peace and you tell me how to kill. It does not work.
No, it doesn't. It's really talking out of both sides of their mouth, and that's something that the U.S. represents itself as being a country with one set of values. In reality, it's a country with an entirely opposite set of values, and how it pursues its foreign policy, an aggressive foreign policy. Let me say that.
Listen, we are all brothers and we are all one, fingers on one hand. There is no difference. We are all children of one family. It's who wants to be the biggest and the strongest is the one which is actually the weakest. Because if you're strong, you don't show muscles, you leave it. You live the life by being generous and kind, not by attacking. The ones who attack are the weakest. How can the most bankrupt nation be the richest? You cannot even service your debts. You're just printing money to cover the servicing the debts we all created years ago.
Oh, I know. You're preaching to the choir on this. I've had this discussion many, many times.
So how can now we've shown on the seas you're not safe anymore. In the air you're wiped out. And it's not the technology. I'm not endangering. As you know, 6 months ago the Belgian government put in a spy as its student in our midst, and they poisoned me and my wife to kill. And we were poisoned again in the past week by what they left behind in trying to clean the house out. So these are all the last remnants of the people who want to be leaders and kings. So they diminish their own power. The problem is, if we work as one unit, the way the Keshe Foundations around the world have become together and working, you just go on the internet. They discover something today, within hours is on the internet. We find something in the lab, within hours, the pictures of the whole reactors, everything is on the internet. People can see and replicate. Once we start working as one unit, as one family, then we'll find peace. And with it, we find a way out of this planet to be able to go out and live a peaceful life and have a peaceful life here. I gave the technology freely to the Japanese. This has shocked the Japanese government. They say we have to pay something for a patent. I said it's a gift. You decide when you use it what you can give to us that we spend it back in Japan for the Japanese nation. And they said we have to find a way to make a donation like this. So if they agree and the report is correct, now they have to go and find a way to make a donation to a company, to a foundation, Keshe Foundation, that the foundation spends the money for the humanity. But the problem is the head of the foundation is an Iranian nuclear physicist and there's an international boycott on the Iranian nuclear physics. It's a huge mess. It's a huge mess. I invited the American government in my meeting with your high officials, and I put my table across the table to the American official, as you know who it is, as one of the highest ranking officials. And I said, this is a hand of peace from Iran. Let's shake it and start talking. And you know where we are now because of it. Before this present talks, I announced that we come with an open, full transparency. And you've seen we done. And now I announce something else. Accept peace on the Iranian term, or you'll be forced to accept peace on the Iranian term, which is just, equal, and allows the Iranian scientists to do their job. Because if we do not achieve peace through equal and just, between the 5+1, then those who are trying to hide behind it, they'll try to access the technology which Iran has developed, and then it'll be one-sided for the other in the 5+1. I make this very clear. Washington has no choice but to allow Iran on the controlled way, which is good for Iran and the Iranian nation, to develop its nuclear industry in plasma and in heavy materials. This is the right of Iran as much as the US. But at the same time, the Iranian nations gives a guarantee they will never use Iranian nuclear materials for any weapon technology. And this guarantee is given today. We speak very clearly. Stop boycotting a nation and its people and its sick children for what does not exist. That's what's happening. The Iranian children are dying because of medicine, and high quality materials cannot come to Iran. What would happen if such a boycott is set on America that you cannot import anything? And Iran showed it by the plane, Russia showed it by the boat. No entry into the borders of the water territory of the United States between two nations. Within hours you will start eating each other in US and Europe. So let's talk peace, but on equal transparency. Not coming in to get access to the latest technology of Iran that you can use it against each other. A lot of you are veterans, you listen to this program. You have to understand the truth behind the 5+1. Iran has centrifuge which every 6 American and European centrifuge is equal to 1 Iranian centrifuge. So Iran with 20,000 centrifuges developed in 10 years has equal to 120,000 American centrifuges, which is huge. And at the same time, they use a fraction of the energy. That's why they want to come in and see how we do it, that they can use it and make a nuclear bomb and different bombs for the others. On the cover of Iran is making bombs. In Iran, we do not need nuclear weapon technology. We have shown how we brought this, one of the most advanced crafts down. Russians shown the Navy situation. So there are more advanced technologies in our hand to force. We are men of wisdom. Don't forget, when you go to Christmas, you speak about the 3 wise men from Persia. We are very wise, but very, very astute as well. We know what we are doing. Let's talk peace in a correct way, sharing knowledge and technology the way we have done. But all the boycotts has to come to an end very rapidly. There is a block enforcing, but at the same time, what you don't like to do to the others, don't let it be done to you. It means boycotts can be effective. I told you, Mr. Harris, when you were with us before Christmas. Only needs change the advanced ship and the Black Sea to a very normal super tanker headed from Middle East, from Saudi Arabia to America. You stop 10 tankers, the panic sits, and then the problem starts for the Americans. You'll be so busy trying to salvage your problem internally to feed your nation that the rest of the world will come to peace. Then you have your own problem. We love you and we respect you, and it has to be mutual. We share technology, we do the same.
Well, let me insert something here, because what we're seeing out of our government in the USA right now is not the will of the people. Our government has been hijacked by what I call a criminal cabal. And the American voter, the American electorate, has been shut out of the process for some time now. There's been a couple of...
That is your problem, your internal
Oh,
national.
I understand. It is our problem. And it's up to us to deal with that problem. But perhaps this external pressure that's going to be put on the people who are in power will aid our efforts to clean our own house and purge our government and our culture, our society, our nation of those who would want to cause harm to others. Because the American people don't want this. American people don't want war. We never have.
Listen, let me explain to you, Mike. I have my first cousins who are half American. I have my second cousins are more or less second, third generation Americans. I don't want to see any harm to come to them, as I don't want to see harm to come to the Latino Americans or Black Americans or anybody else, or the Jews. The problem is we have to stop the process of making money out of hate, out of hating each other, out of resentment, out of making money under different names of color, race, and religion. We got to work as one. And by sharing technology and science that we are doing, we are achieving it. Because we just go on the Keshe Foundation workshops. You see the Chinese, they show the latest thing, the Mexicans, the Italians, the doctors from Bulgaria. We have made Earth without borders. But the question is, now that the Keshe Foundation has set up the structure of science without borders, do we need leaders to have with borders? This is the end of kingship and presidentialship and prime ministership, because they brought it to themselves. When a king pays for a scientist to be killed, do we need that king? This is the situation with Keshe Foundation. We invite the world leaders to come to end the term of their own term and come to one council as the World Leader Council. That we don't have borders, then we don't need to hate each other. We don't talk anymore. I'm doing it so perfectly that even frightens those who are trying to cover it. Because now people are making decisions, sharing knowledge, teaching each other, using the technology. So when you do that, when you are correct, do you need somebody else to tell you what to do? No. You have extra time, you serve the others. You have the extra facilities, you provide for the others. Why should a child of 8 years old be poisoned by instruction of a king to be killed? This is what happened. If you heard what explained in our teaching with the children, the spy they put in the foundation, he poisoned the toys which was from my child. I was teaching that my child got poisoned. Do we need the kings who just want to keep their chairs, kill the others? No. We bring peace. I bless the soul of the king and his entourage. Maybe the soul find peace, that the body does not work with the soul. Time of kingship is over. Now people want to live in peace, and we give them the tool. Let's sit and talk as a one nation, not as number of nations. Then we don't have kings. Why do we need to kill each other in the name of different flags, different way of worshipping the same thing as we got the Creator, wanting to have a peaceful planet? There are not too many planets, there's one. We live on Earth as one. Why do we need to produce weapons to kill each other where we can use the same factories to produce food and make more money out of it? There is no need for this division to benefit. This is the mentality which originally came even from Persia, the old time. And then now is promoted by what they call superpowers. How come the most bankrupt nations cover themselves the world leaders? They don't have the money to feed their nations, and how can they be world leaders? Maybe, look at it this way. In Texas, Dallas, you're running out of water. because you use the water reserves which were underground for millions of years. You thought you have a water, it was reserved to a certain amount. Now you're losing your farms. Let me give you a tip. All the farmers in Texas come to Keshe Foundation. I show you, you can grow material food the same as before at less cost without any water. We done it. Technology is available. Today I sent an email to our Keshe Foundation in China to start developing the technology. The seed you seen, the material you see as CO2, you can create the same thing. Now we know how to make magnets for anything. You create a condition, you absorb moisture from the air, and your plant gets watered. I developed this for African nation, like Ethiopia. Why do you wait for the moisture to go up to become a cloud, to rain down for you to capture it, to water your plant if it rains there? Now you can have rain. The driest part of Arizona desert, the driest part of desert in the United States, still have 15% moisture. So if you can capture the moisture before it goes up, and if it rains, so it goes up from your land, but ends up in China or ends up in Europe, whatever moisture is in your environment, you can capture it, you can bring it down, and don't use any fertilizer, because you, with the bringing in the rain, you bring the nitrogen the right way, so you have your fertilizer and your water free. I don't dream. We have the system. Go to Keshe Foundation website, order CO2 kit, and try it like everybody else, like the Mexicans did today. The change is not talk. They told me it's a lot of talk. Now we start putting units as commercial units in the market. Now we show the power of technology. You don't need us to do it. All you need to do, Mike told you, go to your market, go to your shop, buy a plate of copper, put it in a caustic for 1 day, take it out and let it dry. It goes black. This is your nanomaterial. Get yourself a zinc plate, connect the two plates together, put some salt water in it to cover the plates, and you start capturing CO2. And this is exactly like a leaf of a tree. Go to the Keshe Foundation YouTube. It's called CO2 kit. See how we do it. You don't need to pay us. It costs you less than $1. You have your fertilizer, you have your energy source, you have your food facilities. So we don't talk, we teach you how to do it. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, very good, Mr. Keshe. This has been, quite informative here. Talk to us about health advances, because I know you've been doing a lot of work on that. I got some samples of this pain pad thing, and I understand that's the first of many products that's going to be coming out. What direction are you going to take that in?
We have been given access, or we've been told we've been given access to hospital facilities in Italy. So we will have the beauty of it with this technology, you don't need a hospital, you can do everything at home. You have a cancer, you can process your cancer at home. You have a mentally handicapped child which is born by lack of oxygen, you can do it at home and bring your child to normality over 2 or 3 years by just simple system which we developed. It's not a fairy tale, we've done enough, we have hundreds of records of it. Everything has been kept. So what you do, you have Alzheimer's, you can reverse Alzheimer's. Very easy, by just drinking water. I could not do, I've been making these systems by hand, one by one. Now I'm teaching it to be made in masses, but people have to understand, because if they get it wrong, they cause themselves different problems. So we teach it in the institute. You don't need hospitals. Even the old people, if they process the right way, they can still live a life till the time when the body cannot carry the physicality, but live a good life. We've done this. People who've been with the back broken, bent like 70 degrees, looking on the ground, walk after 3 months upright as nothing. Because we have found the process. So the health section has to go internationally in hand. And now a lot of system has leaked out, a lot of people start making cancer units and the rest. Because you have to understand, one of the things which Belgian government is trying to chase me for is practicing medicine without a license and asking people for money for selling magnets as a fraud. They want as a what do you call it, as fraud. Because this technology is so simple, but it took a lot of development. And what they say, I don't need a license. I make a system like Earth. Who says it's it's a health system? It's a copy of the operation of the planet. So if I'm practicing medicine, which I don't do, I build system which does the processing. They have to sue the mint, the beetroot, the ginger, the garlic. Which court are they going to take them to? This is the stupidity of it. If what I do, developing a system like a garlic, that when you take it, you have no cholesterol, or you lose your what you call diabetic, so you have to sue every planet on this earth, every plant. Go to dates and go to banana, from sugar cane to God knows a potato. This is the ridiculous thing which they have come to stop, to silence the technology that people cannot have, that they can abuse people more. And then because people donate to us, they say it's a fraud. This is what they're... Now we know the German and the Dutch have joined them because the Third Reich in Germany has pushed through. But the thing is, now we open the books. Let them come and sue the trees, the plants, the fish, and everything else. Because if I can build a system which I've shown, 2 plates creates the same condition as a leaf to absorb CO2 from the environment, and you tangibly touch it, so I know the secret of the creation. I'm teaching the man. So if I know how to make a garlic, so every garlic has to go to prison now, because they're all what do you call it, practicing medicine without. And any ginger root is the same. This is the stupidity of a governments who are trying to protect their meager existence for a few more days. I don't build systems to change things. I create the same condition which your body knew before it gets cancer, so it goes back to do exactly what it was doing before the cancer, so the cancer changes. Back, the cancer doesn't change, the body changes to normality, so your cancer doesn't show as a cancer. But it's still there, but it doesn't show as a cancer. So now, from tomorrow, beetroots have to go to the court in Belgium, and gingers. We send truckloads of gingers to the courts in Kortrijk for the police to sue them for practicing medicine. This is the stupidity of it. Ginger criminals.
You just made a comment here that let these governments enjoy their last few days. What do you think the timing is on changing this over to getting this to a point where governments have outlived their usefulness, outlived their function, and are retired, just for lack of a better word?
Governments is us, people of this planet. We have decided to give some people who are incompetent to have power over us. And all we are doing, we are not getting it back, we are not fighting it back. We're carrying our own peaceful way that they come and join us. Fighting takes energy. Why do you need to fight? I don't spend my time fighting the different governments. I carry on releasing technology, I carry on teaching, I carry on opening now the university. So in a time they come say this guy is not the enemy, he's a friend, we need to go at least partially his way, and then in the future a full way. Why should a number of Japanese die? They're our brothers, they're our family. Why should they die? Because I cannot go to Japan to finish the technology to stop the mayhem with Fukushima, which rest of us are getting affected with, plus helping the Japanese to live a normal life. All these tanks that are building on the mountain, 1 a day, 400,000 liter, all becomes assets of the nation. The Americans serve the Japanese to become richer than them with what they have in these tanks. And I explained to them. Every tank, let me explain to you. Every tank on the mountains of Fukushima power plant will create between 10 to 50 kilogram of pure gold. Now multiply 1500 by 50 kilos. Now you see how much you add to pure assets of a nation. I've developed the technology, but at the same time, we destroy the radiation. There is no radiation. So you can drink these pure waters. The technology is very simple. The Japanese have flown twice, 3 times here. They've taken the material. A government doesn't spend this kind of money for nothing if there was nothing in it, and they come and go. I can show you the bottles. I showed it to you when you were here, I think. The bottles from the Fukushima bottle.
Yes, you did,
Yeah.
actually. Yes.
Yeah. So it was. I informed the Italian government immediately. There is such a move that I've received the nuclear water from Fukushima. I didn't know how it comes. They brought it here, and within hours they flew back. They came. They took more, and the material is going. We are very open. I'm waiting for the Japanese to be open to announce what they've done with the Research on Keshe Foundation, because they're afraid of Americans. They do something wrong to them. This is the problem. Fear has caused problem for man. As I said, if I was in America, I would have been 10 times more than Einstein. But here, still I serve as a human being, the human race, and I'm much happier than having a name. But at least we are making the change. We are making a change to world peace, and we are making change to end up the kingship. Because when people are correct, they don't need... You got to understand the structure of the kingship and presidentialship. When you're a king, you have to force people to pay you for you to be the boss. And only comes by injustice. So, when you want to rob a certain number of people to be head of, you have to be unjust, because if you are correct, people don't need a head. They can follow each other in the correct way. We need governments to have a structure. But we need world governments. We need one unified law for everybody. How come? How come, for example, Pakistan, India can have a nuclear technology, Iran can't have? How come Israel can have access to nuclear weapons, Iran can't have? As I said to our Israeli friends, you know I'm half Jew. I said, we are friends. Us and Jews and the Americans, we are friends. We are very good friends, because 20-30% of the population of Israel are Iranian Jews. They are the people who established the original Israeli state. They went from Iran. Half of my family went there. But I'm still loyal to my nation, to my government. I'm Iranian. I never changed my passport. My nation, my ethos of peace stays with my nation. We are friends. You send us a nuclear bomb. You send us aircraft to bomb the nuclear site of Iran. We showed you how we captured the most advanced technology aircraft you had, with all the satellite self-destruction. We do not need to make nuclear bombs. We do not need to go in that territory. We need to know the knowledge and know-how, but not to use it, because it's all right, because we need it in a space. But when a friend gives you a gift, what do? You don't need it, you give it back. As I always said to the Israelis, to the higher ranker officers of Mossad. When a gift given to you, let me explain.
Mr. Keshe, we're nearly out of time. You've got about a minute and a half left, so I want you to wrap up your comments. Okay?
Yeah. So now we don't need your gift. Where would you like your gift back? In Tel Aviv or Washington? Don't even think to attack Iran. We are friends, we work as one. And my foundation is set up to start a world peace. And we talk peace through the Institute. Thank you very much for your time.
Hey, Mr. Keshe, thank you very much for joining us. We've got a minute left. Any other comments from the other group, the other parties who were on the call? There's several. Anyone? We've got, like I said, a minute or so left. Closing comments from anyone? Okay. Well, I guess not. So I'll go ahead and make a plug.
Let me tell you one thing. We invite the human race, or anybody who likes to be at the beginning of this change. We start on 23rd of July at 10:30. If you want to join us in the movement of peace, we're teaching freely and openly. Come and pay us a visit and celebrate the new generation of life with us. 23rd of April in Bari, Italy.
Well, very good. So it's an invitation to the public. The 23rd of April in Bari, Italy, at the university. This is the LUM University. And
University Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute.
Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. All right, Mr. Keshe. Well, we're about done. I've got a couple of announcements to make. Tomorrow, my guest is Gordon Duff. Thursday, I'll have Carrie Cassidy, and Friday, I'll have Miles Johnston. And we will.
Can I
Go
can I
ahead.
say
Oh,
something?
certainly. You're the
I,
guest.
I'm talking to Kerry Cassidy tomorrow night in her show.
Okay. Well, she's a good girl, a good friend, and I hope you have a good interview with her. She's a good person. I like her.
Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you for your time.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll see you in Bari, Italy on the 23rd.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll enjoy your company.
Okay. Well, folks, I think we're about done here. Just waiting for the background music to start up, and we're going to be signing off here momentarily. So that's what I've got. Like I said, tomorrow the guest is Gordon Duff, Thursday Carrie Cassidy, and Friday Miles Johnston. And right on cue, there's our music. Everyone, thank you much. Talk to you the same time, same place tomorrow. VeteransTodayRadio.com, simulcast on Revolution Radio. Freedom Slips. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Great show.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
And so ends the 13th Kids Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Thank you, everybody, for attending.